Bit of a hodgepodge this week, kids, but I did some research on Begin the Begin, and I've been reading Mark Lehner, and I've been watching Night Court, and I listened to the new Weezer record. And I'll tell you all about it on the other side. Hello, you're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay. So did you go and listen to Begin the Begin, kids? That's an interesting question, man, because there are so many different versions of Begin the Begin, and depending on which one you went and listened to, you might think I'm kind of crazy. Now, if you haven't listened to the last episode, it was in that episode that I revealed that my favorite big band song, and I do love the big band, kids, my favorite big band song is, in fact, Begin the Begin, all right? Now, this tune was written by Cole Porter, all right? Mid-30s. Dude was on a cruise ship, got this kind of weird song happening in his mind. And if you went back on my recommendation and you searched out Begin the Begin and you found the Cole Porter version, what you found is kind of a strange tune, man. And a lot of people at the time listened to this and were like, rhythmically, this doesn't make sense to me, Cole. Melodically, it's weird because it's hard to drape a melody that you can remember over top of a rhythm like that, okay? It was a weird tune, it was a bit of an outlier, and it didn't do great, all right? Even for the great legendary Cole Porter, the song didn't do super well. Begin the Begin did not become Begin the Begin, beloved big band song, one of the heavyweights of all time, until it fell into the hands of a little band leader called Artie Shaw, kids, in the late 30s, all right? Now, at the time, Artie Shaw, who is himself legend to us now, was a struggling band leader trying to get a career going, man, and it hadn't been going super well. But he got his hands on this bizarre tune, Begin the Begin, by Cole Porter, and he rearranged it, all right? He laid it out like a swing tune, laid it out like a big band tune, made a little more sense. I can't even describe the rhythm that Cole Porter put on this thing, but when it fell to Artie swung that thing, man. He swung that thing, man. And all of a sudden, the song began to fall into more of a space that you could make sense of, right? And it's got this wonderful energy and melody to it, man, when you drape it on kind of a swung rhythm. And so Artie recorded this tune. He did, I think, 14 tunes for this record. Remember, he's struggling at this point. Artie Shaw, at the time, is not Artie Shaw as we know him now. He's just starting out, man. He's Motley Crue, sleeping on couches in roach-infested hotels before they got signed. You know what I mean? That's Artie at this point, late 1930s. And he records this song, and even the label is like, I don't know about this tune, Artie. It's kind of cool, but it's still a little bit weird. There was something about the arrangement of the melody on this tune that people just weren't really getting, at least at the record exec level. Now, if we know anything, kids, we know that the people who make record level, executive decisions really have their fingers on the pulse of what's good music, man. They allow Artie to release the tune as a B-side, okay, on another song, and something happens. People start noticing this B-side, Begin the Begin. Long story short, Begin the Begin becomes the top-selling record of 1938 and gives Mr. Artie Shaw a career, man. Even in the 30s, you needed that big song, man. You needed that hit single. Begin the Begin became that, and all of a sudden, the legend of Artie Shaw begins to happen. Now, when I told you to go check out that tune, what I should have said was, go check out what I was thinking of was the BBC Big Band Orchestra version, which is the Glenn Miller version, which is fundamentally the Artie Shaw version, okay? Now, I'm a big Glenn Miller guy, and I did some reading about Glenn over the past week or so. And you know what? It's interesting because Glenn Miller, another big band arranger, another freaking legend, man. Moonlight Serenade, man. Glenn Miller wrote some of the big ones, okay? But even at the time, a lot of people turned up their nose at Glenn Miller for being just a little too corporate, man. It was thought by some, maybe it was jealousy, that Glenn Miller was kind of a stale, corporate cutout, kind of a sellout band leader, man. Because his band was like super tightly rehearsed, played rehearsed arrangements. And remember, this is coming on the back of like the hot jazz, man, of the 30s. So you got Count Basie and acts like this that are a little more raucous, man, a little more freeform. It's jazz, man. Now, I'm not an aficionado of jazz. I don't know a lot about it, but I think, where they're coming from. Because jazz is very improv. We know this, right? A lot of you jazz cats out there know that it's freeform and it's very improvised in a lot of cases. And for some of us, we sit and watch that and we go, I got no idea what's happening here, man. Like, I don't get it. Hearts played with a jazz band one night. Very weird in the indie music world, man, because you had Hearts coming in like gangbusters playing our bluesy, swampy rock and roll, opening for like a 3-piece jazz outfit. And they were great. They were great players. And I remember distinctly Tyler, the guitar player from Hearts, was loving them because he's into that kind of eclectic jazz stuff. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The swing makes more sense to me, all right? I like horn arrangements. I like that swing kind of groove, that feel, right? And apparently, the Glenn Miller band was super rehearsed, not a lot of improv. Apparently, Glenn himself was kind of a cold fish, But he created, even if they called it kind of corporate and commercial, Glenn the sellout, man. He created arrangements that people loved. It was popular, man. And even in the 30s, it was the kiss of death to be considered popular, I guess, because Glenn Miller was. And the BBC Big Band Orchestra has a collection of CDs that are, I think, mostly just Glenn Miller tunes, but there's things like Begin the Begin that have been arranged by Glenn or whatever, or were done by his band back in the day. And that's really the version of Begin the Begin I'm thinking of. So if you went and listened to Cole and you thought, I don't really get this, man, this is your favorite big band tune? It's not even a big band tune, because it didn't feel like that. Didn't feel like that until Artie put the swing into it, man. And then I heard it for the first time on these collections by the BBC Big Band Orchestra of Glenn Miller tunes. And that's Begin the Begin to me. And that's Begin the Begin to a lot of people. Now, there are vocal versions of this, and you can hear it sung in the Cole Porter style, which is semi-scrutable. It's like rhythmically, it's very strange. Maybe some of you prog cats might like the Cole Porter version better. I don't know. It's kind of all over the place. But there's a really super duper cool Frank Sinatra version that you can go and hear. There's fun you can do if you want to try the two kind of versions. Frank Sinatra sings it kind of based, I think, off the Artie Shaw arrangement. So it's swung. It's the chairman of the board doing what he does. And it's a really great version. And I always, with big band, prefer the instrumental versions, okay? Just me. But if you like the vocal, you can go check Frank Sinatra singing Begin the Begin with that kind of Artie Shaw arrangement. There's also a Sammy Davis Jr. one, okay? I think this was recorded in the early 80s. And I would describe it as kind of a hybrid. So it's not the straight up swung version. It's got some of the original Cole Porter flavor, but it's not exactly as inscrutable as that. Falls somewhere in the middle. So you can get a flavor for the two different kind of styles. And Ella Fitzgerald did one. A lot of people have covered this. There's a Sheryl Crow. There's a Michael Bublé. And Anyways, Begin the Begin. If you didn't go and listen to it, do so. You can find it on the John Huff referenced on the podcast playlist on Spotify. That's the BBC Big Band Orchestra version. Go listen to the Artie Shaw, and if you like something weirdly eclectic, maybe the Cole Porter, all right? Now, Glenn Miller, interesting cat, all right? Glenn Miller was all the rage, 38 to 42-ish, all right? Had like a 4-year run there where Glenn Miller was kind of the big dog, all right? Playing his commercialized corporate versions of those swing tunes we all love so much. 1942, Glenn Miller joins the U.S. Air Force, okay? World War II is a raging. At that point in time, Glenn's a little bit too old to join up and serve. He's like late 30s, man. You know, you can't fight in your late 30s. And so he wants to go join the army. He wants to serve, man. Wants to do his bit for the cause. He's like, let me come in, put together a band, an army band, right? Travel around, entertain the troops. All right. So nobody had room for him. But the Air Force came along and said, okay, Glenn, like your idea. Let's put a band together. Let's lift morale here in the European theater. And so he joins and he starts putting the band together. And then sometime in 1944, Glenn Miller's plane is flying from England to Paris so that he can kind of get on the ground in Europe. I mean, where the war's happening, and we know that England is Europe, sort of. And his plane goes down. Plane disappears somewhere over the English Channel. And there have been compelling conspiracy theories about that, like it was a faked thing and Glenn Miller was a spy. Conspiracy theories are not unique to this time, kids, you know. And other people said that they were traveling back from bombing runs on the mainland and saw a plane get shot down. Might have been friendly fire. Nobody knows. He was never found, man. So Glenn Miller is a casualty of World War II, and we don't know what he may have produced. Post-1944, had Glenn lived. But the music lives on, man, and I'm a big Glenn Miller guy. I like Artie. I like these cats who played the swing we all know and love. And hey, Cole Porter's great too, man. I just think his Begin the Begin was a little bit weird. So again, I say, if that's the one you went and listened to and you think I'm really weird for thinking that's my favorite big band tune, recognize I was talking about Artie and Glenn, all right? So how you doing anyways, kids? Man, life rolls merrily along. Look, I got just a sage piece of advice for you, okay? And the thing I want to say, with kind of the stress continuing here, at least in Canada, and it's cold, man. Like, it's May and it's cold, and that sucks, you know? We had a little run in April where it was like 20 plus and sunny. The air didn't have teeth anymore. You know that winter air that's got teeth that'll bite you, man? That kind of went away, and we thought, hey, early spring has come. We have earned that over the past year, but then the past couple of weeks, man, it's just like been single-digit degrees outside, and it's cold, and it's rough. I don't dig on that, and I should know better. You know, growing up where I did in Ontario, Canada, you can get snow into June. Like that happens, man. Like, you just don't know. It could be 30 degrees in the first part of April. Could be snowing in June. Everybody has memories of May 2-4 weekend. We're going to the beach on May 2-4 weekend. And I guess we'll be ice fishing because it's -4 in our tent. You know what I mean? So I should know that by now. But here's the thing, all right? If you're stressed out, I want you to find reasons to laugh, okay, kids? This was presented to me again recently, fell on some dark thoughts. That continues to happen, you know. I'm doing my best. Doing my best to fight through some of the darkness, man. It still encroaches on me, still comes around. Gotta defend your castle, kids. Your thoughts create your world, man. And if you let the negative ones come in, they will slip through that door and then burn your castle down, my friends. It's beginning to happen to me, and then I'm reading the new novel by, if you can call it a novel, by the great Mark Lehner. Mark Lehner, who is probably my favorite writer of fiction in the English language, which makes him probably my favorite writer of fiction because I can't really read any other languages. Un peu de français and ein bisschen Deutsch. But Mark Lehner's my guy, man, and I've talked about him a little bit on here, but I'm reading his new book called Last Orgy of the Divine Hermit. Mark Lehner is not for the faint of heart, okay, kids? And he is an avant-garde fiction writer. The, at one point, enfant terrible of American letters back in the 90s. Writes weird freaking stuff, man. Mark Lehner is not for everybody, but what Mark Lehner is, if you dig it, man, if you can roll with him, if you're feeling that vibe, is the funniest freaking writer I've ever read. And there are moments when you read Mark Lehner where you just set the book down. Like you read a sentence and you set the book down and you think, who even thinks of that? What mind comes up with what I just read? It's bananas, man. And then there are times when you read a line and it's like hitting kind of a speed bump in print. And you explode, at least I do, with laughter. And you kind of fall over, and again, you set the book down, and you go, who even thinks of that? And if you get the combination of just an idea that's so insane, or a statement that's so insane, right? It's so bizarre and so funny. You get the combination of who even thinks of that, and laughing with who even thinks of that, and you got yourself literary nirvana, okay? Now, Mark Lehner's book, A2 Babe, is probably, it's up there. And this is going to sound like hyperbole, but, you know, in my pantheon of the top novels, I've got stuff like The Grapes of Wrath and Gatsby and A2 Babe by Mark Lehner, okay? And Life After God by Douglas Copeland. But let's not turn this into a literary review. I'm reading Last Orgy of the Divine Hermit, and I would try to describe it to you, but it's pointless. The first half of the book is, according to the world we're reading in, read by a character off of a Snellen chart. She's reading the text of the book off an eye chart, kids, all right? It's weird. That's all I'm saying is it's weird, and I cannot even begin to describe to you what is going on in this book, because I don't even know. But you read through Mark Lehner, and he's such a smart writer, and it's such a funny and clever writer. And on the back of one of his book jackets, you know, one of the reviews made reference to his, quote, dynamited head. It's a dynamited head. It's insane what's going on in this dude's books, all right? And they are not for everyone. So, you know, a week or two ago, not even like a week ago, I'm reading before bed, trying to make the eyes tired, kids. And I've been feeling rough, you know, not feeling super happy, you know, wrestling with the demons again. And I'm reading Mark Lehner, and I ran across a sentence in Last Orgy of the Divine Hermit, which made me laugh harder than I've laughed since at least the beginning of COVID. I mean, legit. Tears in your eyes, belly laugh, man. Not faking a laugh, not trying to, you know, kind of limp a laugh into reality. Not kind of a, you know what I mean? Not that was clever. Like this nailed me. And I have not been nailed in a long freaking time by anything this funny, all right? And I would repeat the line to you now, but we are mostly a family audience, right? And there are people who listen to me who I know have sensitivities to more graphic things, and I'm not going to read the line to you now. It's horrendous, and it was the funniest freaking thing I've read in a long time. And it made me put the book down, and it made me, through tears of laughter, say, who even thinks of that? Who thinks of that? Mark Lehner, how do you think of that? I'm not going to tell you. Maybe you private message me and I'll let you know, or at least what page to go look on. And here's the thing. I had been feeling some like gastrointestinal discomfort, gallbladder was acting up, and it was me doing it to myself, okay, kids? This is why you gotta defend your thoughts. Because your thoughts will manifest in your body, all right? You've got pain, you've got dis-ease. Trace that to your thoughts, man, and I'm down a dark rabbit hole, and my gallbladder's hurting, and things are sort of coming apart from the inside, and I know that I'm doing it to myself with my thinking, all right? Then I hit this line in Mark Lehner, and I fall over laughing for about 5 solid minutes. And when I rise from that, when I rise from the falling down and pick up the book again, guess what? Incredible lightness all over my whole body. And no gallbladder pain. Psychosomatic, man. They say laughter is the best medicine, and it actually is. If you're feeling dis-ease, laughter shakes you out of it, man. And I'll go so far as to say that this one line of text in a novel shook me out of a year-long reverie, man. Like I have not felt myself in a year. And that line just shook me loose, man. It was maybe a little bit temporary, but it shook me loose, and I felt more myself than I have since COVID started. Since probably long before COVID, man. And that's all owed to one line of text that just made me freaking laugh, man. So if you haven't laughed in a long time, find a reason to laugh, all right? If there's a writer you like who makes you laugh, read him or her. And if there's TV that you like that makes you laugh, watch it. I've been going through, my friend hooked me up with all 9 seasons, kids, of Night Court. Do you remember Night Court? Oh, Night Court was one of my favorite programs in the 80s. And you think to yourself, 80s sitcom, that probably doesn't hold up too well. And in some ways it doesn't, Night Court, there's a lot going on Night Court that you couldn't get away with now. I think we're going to find out for sure because they're going to reboot Night Court, kids. Have you heard that news? Yes. A new Night Court is coming, and John Larroquette, who played lecherous Dan Fielding, lecherous prosecutor Dan Fielding, is involved, all right? He's the driving force behind this. And we lost Harry Stone, and that's a freaking shame. But apparently there's a reboot happening with a new judge who is Harry Stone's daughter. Isn't that fun? And I loved Night Court because Night Court was so freaking zany. But now I watch it, I'm just about the end of the 3rd season, and I'm marveling at how smart it was. Like there's, you can do goofy comedy really cleverly. And there's a lot of sight gags, a lot of one-liners that are so clever in Night Court. And a lot of morality. My friend who hooked me up with the seasons was watching, and he's like, I can't watch anymore. There's too many lessons. There's a lot going on Night Court that was extraordinarily chauvinistic and sexist. Stuff that would get that show canceled in a hot minute now. And that's just the wheel of time, man. That's the wheel of perception. That's the wheel of evolution in thinking. The way people thought about men and women in the middle 80s is different, however many years, 35 years later, we've evolved, the consciousness has evolved. And there's stuff going on Night Court that you can't do anymore. There's stuff going on Night Court that you can't say anymore. But in some ways, it was ahead of its time, all right? There's an episode, season 1 or 2, where there's a gay character, all right? Gay guy shows up in court. And the interesting thing is that he's just a guy. Whoa. Think about what's going on 70s, 80s with gay characters, all right? Think about Three's Company, all right? Everybody loves Three's Company, an absurd freaking premise. Like it's a moral outrage in the 70s that a guy is living as a roommate platonically with 2 girls. It was the 70s, man. Come on. Really? After the Summer of Love? Like we're 10 years beyond that. And we got an issue with it just looks bad. It just looks bad. Wait till your father gets home. But think of how Jack Tripper had to pretend to his landlord that he was gay in order to make it okay for him to live with two girls platonically, right? And how was that played? It was played with stereotypes and played for cheap laughs, right? And there was a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that going on in English programs. Like one of my favorite sitcoms of all time is 'Allo 'Allo, which was an English one set, if you can believe it, in Nazi-occupied France in World War II, right? And it seemed like every English sitcom had a kind of token, flamboyant, played for laughs, played for cheap laughs, gay character, right? And this is going on in American shows too. Jack Tripper is the example, you know? It was considered okay and easy to make cheap laughs out of sort of gay stereotypes and that kind of thing. Then you get on Night Court, which, hey man, a lot of sexism, a lot of chauvinism on that program, okay? I'm not denying it, but also ahead of its time. So this gay character comes into court, right? And he's just a guy. He's wearing a hat. He's got a jacket on. He's just a guy. Nobody even knows he's gay, right? But he takes a shine to Dan Fielding. He likes Dan Fielding, the lecherous prosecutor whose whole thing is what a ladies' man he is, right? And it's what he's all about. End of story. Money and women. And so the gay character likes Dan and thinks that Dan is gay too. And Dan reacts with, you know, the sort of outrage and embarrassment that you would expect from that, right? And so what's interesting, though, is that this goes on and, you know, Dan's so defensive about his sexuality and this kind of stuff. And it's played for pointing the finger, you know, illustrating through Dan this weird, stupid paranoia, right? And there comes a point in the episode where Dan Fielding winds up stuck in an elevator with the gay character, right? Remember, this guy is just a guy. He's not played for flamboyance. He's not played for laughs. You know, there's none of this kind of effeminate, stereotypical stuff that you would see in characters of that era as presented on television. He's just a guy. Happens to be gay, but he's just a normal guy, right? And so Dan and this guy are locked in the elevator. And that could be played so campy. And that could be played for such cheap laughs. But it is not. They are just two adult people talking. And Dan begins to understand that his preconceptions are stupid, you know, and that he's stereotyped this guy and that it's weak thinking. And then, you know, at the end, they just become fine, you know, they shake hands, whatever. It's like, it's so dignified. It's so dignified and it's so honest, right? And this is Night Court, like 1984, man. And putting it in the context of the time, that's pretty groundbreaking, man. It really is. And there's been a couple of characters who have showed up on the program and who have poked at the kind of stereotypes and have pointed at the audience and said, hey, man, think about your thinking. This is Night Court, all right? There's also the looniest stuff going on that you can imagine. And it's silly and it's hilarious and the sight gags are great. And it's making me laugh, all right? But it's also making me think. And you didn't think Night Court would do that, did you? So I'm watching the Night Court. And the other night, I watched Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail, which is as goofy and silly as it gets. And so freaking funny, man. Love me the Pythons. Love me the Pythons. I once saw Eric Idle live in person. Woo. That's fun. It was one of his tours. I forget which one. He did a bunch of, you know, going around kind of vaudeville theater shows. And they were all allusions to Monty Python's. Like one of them was the Greedy Bastard tour or Eric Idle exploits Monty Python tour. This kind of stuff. And we saw Eric and he had like a little cast of players with him. It was great. Just being in the same room with Eric Idle was freaking awesome, man. And I love me the Pythons and I watched The Quest for the Holy Grail. If you haven't seen that, what rock have you been living under, man? Watch that. It's hilarious and insane. And if you haven't seen it in a long time, watch it, because it holds up and it'll make you laugh, all right? Those performances, those characters, absolutely dynamited, just like Mark Lehner, man. So go watch that. And here's the other thing I'm watching. I just started last night for the second go-round, kids, is Ted Lasso. Do you know Ted Lasso? My wife has been asking me to watch Ted Lasso for months, and I was brushing her off because I'm not typically a series television person anymore, all right? I like to watch the sports, like to watch the history, you know? I haven't really watched a lot of series, and so I kind of, I don't really go for that. But she's like, you should watch Ted Lasso. You should watch Ted Lasso. Do you know Ted Lasso? Ted Lasso is a program about an American football coach, like Division II college coach, who runs this football program that has a Cinderella story and wins a national championship, if you can imagine. And so he gets hired by a Premier League football club, real football, not American football, a Premier League soccer club in England. He gets hired to be their manager, right? For reasons behind the scenes that I ain't going to tell you about because you got to watch for yourself. So along comes Ted Lasso, knowing not one freaking thing about soccer, right? But he is this cockeyed optimist, and he has a unique style of coaching. And the whole gig is watching this fish out of water story, this American guy, this aw shucks, thank you ma'am, American guy show up in jolly old England, dear old Blighty, to take over a Premier League team, knowing not one thing about football. And how is Ted Lasso gonna win him over? And it's Jason Sudeikis. He plays Ted Lasso, who is such an endearing and charming and hopeful and optimistic character. And it's inspiring, man. It's inspiring to watch a guy walk into the tiger pit, man, the English media, getting their hands on this yokel from America, this Yank, who doesn't know anything about soccer, who's suddenly managing a top-level team. Are you kidding me? And it's just so fun to watch this guy, Ted Lasso, with his unshakable optimism and his patience. And it's like, how's he going to win these guys over? First game, he's on the touchline, and the whole crowd, the home crowd, is chanting wanker at him. Wanker, wanker. Wait, he's walking into the tiger pit, man. They freaking hate him. And I get it. You know, I am not to the level of a local English footy fan, but I'm a pretty intense Arsenal fan, man. And I get the rage, okay? I understand the rage. There's a lot of it this year. And so watching this guy, Ted Lasso, roll up into England with this unshakable belief and this confidence in his way of doing things, and just letting it slide off him, makes you want to be an optimistic person, man. Makes you want to let things slide with the knowledge that the way you do it will win him over in the end. You know, not taking things personally. And people do awful stuff to him, and he keeps on smiling. Keeps on doing his thing, you know? It's an inspiring program, and it's a very lighthearted program. All right, it's tough. If you like Lasso, and you do, and you watch some of the stuff that happens to him, you know, it can be a little bit tough at times, but that's just drama, man. That's just a TV show. But fundamentally, it's a very light program. It's a very sunny program. It's funny. Ted Lasso is a character you root for. And if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, kids, that's my recommendation to you, okay? You want something a little bit inspiring. You want something a little bit uplifting. You know, won't bring you down. Watch Ted Lasso. I finally started watching. There's like 8 or 10 episodes in the whole first season, right? My wife's like, will you just watch one? So I watched one. And then I had to restrain myself from binging the whole freaking thing. Because it just struck a nerve with me, man. And it struck a nerve with a lot of people. The team, it's a fictional team that he takes over, AFC Richmond, has a Twitter account with like 45,000 followers. Or something like that. And Ted Lasso himself, the character, has a Twitter account with tens of thousands of followers. So it's not just me. So go read stuff that you think is funny. Go watch Night Court. Or go back and watch whatever was nostalgic for you. But be careful, because I've gone back and watched other nostalgias. And I thought, wow, this is terrible, man. This is not good. I don't know what I was thinking when I was 10 years old. For me, Night Court holds up. Monty Python holds up. And go watch Ted Lasso, all right? Haven't done a proper spin-in this week, but I do have some music to tip you off to real quick. Gonna keep this one a bit short, kids, because I got some work to do, like real legit work. Working on a writing thing at this moment. But some new stuff came out in the last couple weeks you might want to check out. Chief among those, I suppose, is the Van Weezer record. I don't know what sort of a Weezer person you are. I dig Weezer. I've liked Weezer for a long time. I've covered a fair amount of Weezer with people over the years, and, always gets people jumping, kids. The thing I've liked about Weezer all along, they're a unique sound for me, and I've always loved the production on the guitars in Weezer. They're so thick, man. They have thick, slabby guitar tones, and they're playing, they are the flagship band of nerd rock, but they rock freaking hard, man. And if you listen to some of the stuff they've done recently, like they dropped a covers record a few years ago. Everybody heard their version of Africa, right? The Toto tune, which was killer, man. Rivers Cuomo is such an underrated everything. Underrated singer, underrated guitar player, underrated songwriter. And they did a whole cover album of 80s tunes. Like there was Paranoid was on, like, They rock, man. Like Weezer wants to, they can rock. And so they released this record, Van Weezer. And I thought, it's going to be a whole bunch of Van Halen covers because they've been dropping covers like nobody's business, man. And, Eddie died. So like, now's the time. Van Weezer. They're going to do a bunch of Eddie Van Halen stuff, some Van Halen covers. Not that. It's a straight up Weezer studio album. But the motivation behind this, the inspiration behind this, apparently was like your 80s hard rock styles, all right? And their last record before this, I think it was also released this year, it didn't really grab me. It was much more of a kind of a pop thing, did not have those thick Weezer guitars that I love so much. So this record, Cuomo was like, all right, we did that, and we did covers and whatever. We're going to do like a hard rock style, more riffy kind of stuff, right? And I have not listened to this closely. I've been through the album a couple of times, and I don't know. I don't want to give any sort of judgments on it. There's some cool stuff on it, all right? Production does sound a little 80s. The guitars aren't nearly as 90s slabby. A little more refined, a little thinner, some nice distortion happening. And some riffs, man. This is an underrated band, Weezer, okay? They're nerd rock and whatever, but man, these cats can play, all right? Legit players. So go and listen to the tune, I Need Some of That. I think is probably the end of the game, and I Need Some of That. Great choruses, man. Just like the Cheap Trick thing, man. Great freaking choruses. I don't know how people write hooks, but Weezer are masters of hooks. And if you listen to the tune Blue Dream, there's a tip of the hat to Crazy Train on that one. And if you listen to Sheila Can Do It, there's a tip of the hat to Girls, Girls, Girls on that one. So if you come from the era that I come from, it's kind of fun to hear a modern band kind of throwing back to those vibes. And it's a pretty cool record, all right? Van Weezer. If you're looking for something that rocks a little bit, you want to check out something new, check out the Van Weezer record. Now, if what you want is the real deal 80s hard rock sound, then there is a brand new album by Robin McAuley. Robin McAuley! We talked a lot about Robin McAuley because of his work with the Black Swan band, right? Black Swan, maybe my favorite record of the year so far. And Robin McAuley, of course, at 70 years young, singing like a 25-year-old man. It is astonishing. this cat's voice, but Robin, he's super prolific right now too, man. It's all coming out of Robin McAuley. Robin dropped a brand new solo record, Standing on the Edge. I have only just dabbled in it, liked it so far. Sounds legit, like it's not Weezer pretending to be an 80s hard rock band. It's not even Steel Panther pretending to be an 80s hard rock band. This is a legit 80s hard rock album by a guy who was there and did that, all right? So check out Robin McAuley's record. You want a little 80s rock and roll. And for you singer-songwriter fans who like it when I talk about Phoebe Bridgers and Serena Ryder and that sort of thing, going to point you at the new album by Liz Stringer, okay? Now, Liz Stringer is an Australian singer-songwriter. She just dropped a brand new album that I really like. It's called First Time Really Feeling, and all of these tunes are about addiction, okay? They are addiction stories. Liz Stringer herself is sober now, but had an alcohol thing. And, you know, it's interesting. People who come through that and find their way to the other side very often become advocates of sobriety, right? And it becomes part of their artistic stuff. It becomes part of their expression. Liz Stringer is no different, and she's dropped this really cool album, First Time Really Feeling. And it is a singer-songwriter album, man. It's got just a bit of rock happening, a bit of folk happening. It sounds like a singer-songwriter record, but Liz Stringer is really good, man. She's got this really cool voice, kind of a thick voice. It's a strong voice. You can tell by looking at Liz Stringer that she's strong, man. You get this vibe off of Liz Stringer that she knows what she's talking about. So if you just want to check out a couple tunes, listen to the title track, First Time Really Feeling. Listen to Dangerous. Dangerous is probably my favorite song on the album, and it's like a Bruce Cockburn song, actually. It kind of throws back a little bit to kind of a Lovers in a Dangerous Time vibe. It's a bit dark. It's got some 80s kind of sounds on it. Not 80s folk, but like 80s rock, pop. Not in the same way of Van Weezer, but it sounds like an 80s tune to me. There's a lot of that happening. There's like an 80s revival in a lot of genres happening. Dangerous has got that kind of darkness cut, kind of a Bruce Cockburn feel. Really great chorus, really great song, man. And it's a rock tune. Definitely a rock tune, and I like it very much. The Metrologist is another favorite song of mine on this album. And even though Liz is Australian, it was actually recorded in Toronto, man. So she's got a Canada presence. One of my other favorite bands from Australia is the Lazies, who I've been lucky enough to play with. And they are the epitome of an 80s rock bar band. No, they are the epitome of an Australian rock bar band, which throws back to 80s, very kind of AC/DC style. Love the Lazies, but they also centered themselves in Toronto. So there's this thing happening whereby Australian artists are finding Toronto and finding Canada to be a kind of a good market for them, with access to the US of A, of course, whenever the pandemic ends. Liz Stringer is one of those. Really like this record, First Time Really Feeling. So if that's your jam, if you're more into the singer-songwriter stuff, less into the hard rock stuff, check out the Liz Stringer record. Then check out the Van Weezer. Check out Robin McAuley's record. I think you might like it, man, if you like a lot of the music I talk about on here. And we're sneaking up on 45 minutes. I think I'm going to halt it there, kids, because I got stuff to do, and it's Monday, so I have to edit this whole dang thing and put it together. Hope you're doing okay. Find reasons to laugh, okay, kids? Go listen to Begin the Begin. Listen to the BBC Big Band Orchestra version of that tune. Tell me if you don't find yourself tapping your toes. That song has put many a smile on my face over the year, kids. Music can do that. Comedy can do that, you know? So find the things that put smiles on your face, man. It'll help you. It'll help you feel better. And hey, let me know what some of that music is, what some of that comedy is for you, okay? Drop me a line. Let me know what you're checking out, what you're listening to. I say this all the time. Could really use ratings and reviews, man. I don't want to be that podcaster, but if you're on the Apple, drop me a little review. Or drop me just a quick rating, man. It takes as much as the click of a mouse button. Just let me know you're listening. Hope you're doing okay. Gonna shutting up now. And hey, I'll check you later. thank you once again, gentle listener, for taking in today's show. If you want to know more about the program, go to www.john-huff.com. That's JOHN-HUFF.com and click on podcast. You can also find the show on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast. If you're an Instagram person, you can find me at JW_Huff. If you're a Twitter person, you can find me at @JWSHuff. No matter where you listen to the show, please do me a big favor and leave a rating and review. Preferably a positive one. That's all the time we have for today, but I'll be back very soon. Until then, keep your wits about you, and remember, good things happen when you put yourself out there. Bye for now. When they begin the beginning.